Good morning and welcome to the 19th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. This is the committee's third public hearing pursuant to its inquiry into certain aspects of the adverse health effects of fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to indicate that this is our third public hearing into this subject matter. So this is a matter that the committee has been giving a lot of attention to since we have been obtaining from members of the public through the media and directly that fireworks use is causing much harm to the public welfare, both of citizens and of animals in Trinidad and Tobago. The timing is also appropriate, propitious, because we anticipate that we will have some activity in this area towards the end of the year and in the coming weeks. So we would, pursuant to our two prior inquiries, want to conclude our year's work and the public inquiry in this hearing on this particularly important subject. I would like to welcome all of our viewers on the various channels, the Parliament channel, and on the social media sites which are available for perusal, and I invite them to submit their own comments and their own recommendations if they have with respect to the ongoing work in the committee. I would like to welcome members of the media who are here to provide the coverage, and the most important, I want to welcome the officials of the Ministry of National Security, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Environmental Management Authority, and the officials from Fire One Fireworks who have made the time to be with us this morning to address the concerns of the committee and the concerns of the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I will, at this point, ask that the members who are here with us to provide and furnish evidence, and they introduce themselves, and then after we have introduced ourselves in the committee, I will ask the representatives from the organizations to offer brief opening remarks before we proceed with the inquiry. Yes. Yes, can I start with the officials of the Ministry of National Security?
Good morning, Adal Rahamad, Senior Legal Officer, Ministry of National Security.
Thank you.
Good morning, Fire Sub-Officer Blaine Wilson of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service,
Yes.
Inspector and Fire Investigating the Service.
Okay, could I get your rank again, sir?
Fire Sub-Officer.
Fire Sub-Officer. Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning, Kenny Gopal, Deputy Chief Fire Officer.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Devda Dulalchan, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations.
Thank you.
Good morning, Hayden Romano, Managing Director of the Environmental Management Authority.
Very well.
Good morning, everyone. Janelle Partap, Manager, Legal Services of the Environmental Management Authority.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andre Abraham, Managing Director at Fire One Fireworks.
Thank you very much, members of the panel. May I start? Oh, we have officials. I did not, my apologies, I did not recognize the officials in the back. Yeah.
Good morning, all. Wayne Rajkumar, Manager, Technical Services, Environmental Management Authority.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Kazim Ali. I'm Acting Inspector of Police, Legal Officer with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Okay. Thank you very much, officials. And may I start with my right, Senator? Could you introduce yourself for the record?
Good morning, all. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm an opposition senator.
Esmond Ford, Deputy Speaker, Member of Parliament for Tunapuna.
Brigadier General Ansel Antoine, Member of Parliament, Dabadi Omira, Member.
Good morning. My name is Christine Uwalo Hussain, Member of Parliament, Motomansmela.
Yes, and I am Dineshwar Mahabir, Independent Senator, Chairman of the committee. I will ask at this point in time the representatives to offer brief opening remarks. I will ask a representative from the Ministry of National Security, then the Fire Services, then the police, the EMA, Fire and Fire One Fireworks to offer us brief opening remarks. Yeah.
It's okay.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, members of the public. The Ministry of National Security welcomes this opportunity to continue the discussions on this important topic using this forum. The discussions had thus far, and we will continue to have, will provide a useful basis upon which the Ministry can build with respect to any administrative and legal restructuring that is required to treat with the gaps that exist in the current framework. We therefore look forward to the discussions that will take place this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fire Services.
Morning to the chairman and members of the committee. We of the Fire Service are happy to be here again to ventilate our concerns concerning the use and the impact of fireworks on the public. We are looking forward to working with the other stakeholders in the formulation and implementation of legislation in this regard. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Dulalchan, Police.
Chair, the police is also happy to be here, again, to join in the conversation in relation to fireworks. And it will also give us an opportunity to provide some feedback following our last engagement in March.
Okay, very well. Yes, EMA.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. We at the EMA are very happy to be here because we will continue to support all the agencies who have primary responsibility for fireworks: the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Customs and Excise Division, the Ministry of Trade, and the regional corporations. Chair, I would like to take this opportunity to advise you and members of the public that the National Environmental Policy, today is the last day for public comments. And during the full public comment period, during the consultations, one of the effects that people kept continue to talk about was noise. And therefore, we urge members of this committee and members of the public to please comment on the National Environmental Policy.
Thank you very much. Yes, representative of Fire One Fireworks.
Thank you, Chairman. We are honored and privileged to be here to add our comments to this very important discussion. We are committed to do whatever it takes to ensure that we achieve a win-win on all sides. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that concludes. Are there any more comments from the back, or your leaders have commented for you? Very well, thank you. I normally start the questioning, but I will defer to the Deputy Speaker this morning. He has to attend an important matter, and I hope he's able to return. So I will ask MP Esmond Ford to pose his first question to the committee.
Yes, good morning again, colleagues. Welcome to this important JSC meeting. It's so important that we are 16 days away from the new year, 2018, and we know the importance of fireworks in anticipation of what's going to transpire on the 31st of December, 2017, as we bring in 2018. We would have met on March 15th and also on April 19th as a body, and it's important to start where we would have ended. What has transpired between the fire services, the police service, and the EMA, also the Ministry of Health in terms of collaboration from April when we last met to now. Could any one of the panel say what has transpired since we last met with regards to fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago? We would have identified certain issues when we last met, and I would like to hear from the panel, you know, where we are at present with regards to fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We of the Fire Service have submitted a document with the recommendations, the way forward we see for fireworks. I must say I'm happy to have Mr. Abraham here, because since our last meeting, he has voluntarily contacted the Fire Service, and we have begun to liaise with him in compliance because we had a major concern with his establishment. The way forward we see it, and as the Permanent Secretary has mandated, is that we form a committee within the Ministry of National Security for us as stakeholders to deal with, to voice our concerns, to liaise with the legal department in the formulation of the legislation, which will have the greater impact in terms of implementation and the settling of this troubling issue.
Okay, coming out of that, with regards to the EMA, Mr. Romano, you were not present at the last meeting, right? But I heard you mention in your introductory statement with regards to what is happening in terms of the consultation that is taking place. So I presume that one of the main concerns we had as a committee was the person that represented the EMA on the last occasion, where they said that fireworks did not fall within the purview of the EMA. All right, that would have, back in March, back in April. In your opening salvo, you would have mentioned that you all have started some consultation. So could you just briefly, could you give us some information briefly as to what has transpired since and what the EMA is now doing with regards to fireworks, whether it is from a noise pollution point of view, a nuisance, a disturbance, whatever it is, please, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Managing Director.
You are correct. I mean, the EMA fireworks does not fall within the jurisdiction of the EMA. I mean, it is appended based on the fact of the noise from the fireworks with respect to noise variation. Noise from fireworks is instantaneous noise, it's in the NPCR, the Noise Pollution Control Rules. So, with respect to fireworks, the EMA really plays a supporting role to the agencies who are primarily responsible for fireworks. One, the importation of fireworks, that is dealt with by the Ministry of Trade and the Customs and Excise Division. Two, I mean, the actual letting off of fireworks and the permission to let off of fireworks is a combination of the fire services, the police service, and the regional corporations. And the EMA will continue to assist all these agencies with respect to fireworks. The EMA manages fireworks only when a promoter decides that they are having fireworks for an event and they apply for a noise variation under the Noise Pollution Control Rules, and then we would manage it in two ways. One, we specify the time that the fireworks is to be let off, and two, we specify that they must inform all their stakeholders, all the residents in the communities, that fireworks will be let off, and maybe put in newspaper advertisements also, so that people can protect their pets. So we will manage it from that aspect. What we have been doing at the EMA, and it will be completed in early January for commence by all the various agencies, is that we're looking at what obtains in other jurisdictions and coming up with recommendations to move forward with fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago. Recommendations with respect to the importation, recommendations with respect to the type of fireworks, because in some jurisdictions they have noiseless fireworks, and in some jurisdictions they have fireworks that actually can be let off indoors. So we are doing some work. I mean, we will be completed with the research early in January. We will submit for comments to all present here before we go to the public. I mean, we'll want it to be submitted to the agencies first, and we hope from there we'll be able to move forward with fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much. Could I ask MP Antoine to come in as a follow-up? He had a follow-up question to what was raised by MP Ford.
Yes. In our April meeting, there were certain recommendations that came out. And this is a follow-up to MP Ford's question. And one of the recommendations was greater collaboration between the Trinidad and Tobago Police and Fire Service, Customs, Excise Division, the EMA, Ministry of Health, the regional corporations, the Ministry of National Security, and the ODPM, in order to effectively regulate the use of fireworks. I want to know, between April and now, was there any collaboration between these various agencies in terms of the regulation of fireworks? Was there any collaboration at all?
Very simple question. The MP is asking whether there was, since March, any collaboration amongst the various agencies which have an interest in the matter. You see, I'll tell you, panel, what we have found in the committee stage is that agencies of government operate in separate republics. They do not communicate. They do not, and everyone has a gap with the other, and the public interest falls through the gaps. We are looking to plastering these gaps today. So was there any collaboration? If so, could you tell us the details of that meeting and what the outcome was? Or if there was no collaboration, can you give us a commitment that in the new year, we will collaborate on this matter as a matter of urgency and priority?
Chair, DCP Lalchan and ourselves at the EMA have been collaborating on noise on the whole. I mean, we've had several meetings with respect to noise, not necessarily fireworks, because noise on the whole is a problem throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
EMA, I want to stop you there, and I want to ask you a question. And the question is this. The EMA, according to the EMA Act, is charged with providing advice to all arms of the state. Whenever an arm of the state, the Ministry of Agriculture and for aerial spraying or something like that, you all are going to provide a technical advice. You're a technical agency. Did you, during the past Diwali celebrations, when fireworks were let off at random in many neighborhoods outside towns, did you test the decibel level in the areas to actually tell the committee, well, in this particular area, the noise level exceeded the recommended decibels? Did you test air quality in a particular locale where you know there was a concentration? You see, your function is to provide advice. Did you do that? If you did not, do you plan to do it?
We did not do it for Diwali because, as I said, I mean, we're still putting the data together in terms of exactly what we need to be measuring. And we're hoping that we will get some results for Christmas and for the New Year. And of course, we will be doing something. And again, we will continue to be doing work with the TTPS. Right. And I suppose maybe we can try to include some of the other agencies.
We need to know what the EMA will be doing concretely.
Right.
You see, we need to know, will you test air quality? Will you test decibel levels? It's in your mandate according to the Act. Will you choose certain locales in the country where you know there's a high incidence of this activity so that you can then provide the scientific data, the information to the police, the Ministry of National Security, the Customs and Excise, that this is exceeding that which is right for the health and welfare of the population, and let us, we recommend these steps. So could we get the assurance from the EMA? Because on the last time the EMA appeared before us, the same issues arose, that they were going to do and they were going to do, and we are hearing that it's not yet done. Is it a resource problem, or is it that it requires now a real dedicated approach, recognizing that the committee is of the view that this is a problem, that you will focus on it explicitly?
You're correct. There is a resource problem, and we will make all efforts to, one, because we have a commitment from TTPS, DCP Dulal Chan, to assist us with respect to the resources, and we will make some efforts to test decibel levels. Air quality is a bit more of a challenge because we just don't have the equipment, the mobile equipment with respect to air quality. But we will look at decibel levels with DCP Dulal Chan for Christmas. That's one commitment that we will make. And the second commitment that we will make is to have the recommendations to the various agencies by the middle of January.
Thank you very much, EMA. There is a MP Ford. I'm giving him maximum leeway because he has to leave.
Mr. Chairman, the summary of proceedings public hearing, which we have in our possession, would these documents would have been provided to? Pardon?
It's on the Hansa.
Oh, but because what I'm saying, based on the question, right, that we have posed to the Managing Director, Mr. Romano, because clearly on this document, it has clearly identified issues discussed with the EMA, and it's clearly itemized. Yes. Which are some of the points that we want to ensure that you all look at, right? So I don't know if it's possible, Mr. Chairman, that information like this can be provided to the relevant bodies that are here today to ensure that they have clear guidelines on what we are looking for.
Yes.
You, Mr. Romano, is talking about 2018. But within 15 days from today, there's going to be a nuisance and there are going to be complaints. And again, coming out of a report that we have received from the TTPS, right, which was submitted by the Commissioner of Police with regards to reports, all right? The public image and the public always complain about fireworks, the nuisance, the noise, the animals, you know what I mean? People are scared. But yet still, during the independence period, we have one report being made in the south of Trinidad. Port of Spain, Western Division, Northeastern, no reports were made. But a lot of people complain to members of parliament, complain to their councillors, complain on the radio stations, on the various media houses. For the Diwali period in October, we came up with 24 reports. And then we also saw which part officers responded. No one was seen, different information, you know, because again, people are not coming forward. To you, Deputy Commissioner Operations, what could be the reason why when these complaints are made, officers go out and, you know, there's no further feedback? You know, could you give us a little hint on that?
I think on the first hearing, I alluded to the fact that sometimes the people who, in fact, make these complaints are relatives and neighbors. And I find that that is the problem that we continue to have. The police will respond. We will see people. We will engage them. We will ask persons questions, specific questions. Even most of the calls sometimes are, in fact, anonymous because it's neighbors and family calling. And I was making the point yesterday in preparation. Maybe we seriously have to look to see at the top level how we can set the kind of controls that we want. But just to indicate, and we would have taken some advice from committee hearing, where we did, in fact, we came up with 6 strategies that we went full-blown by way of public awareness. All right? All divisional commanders, they were instructed 2 or 3 days before to ensure that we heightened our policing activity by way of patrols and visibility to act as, that will, the present will serve as a deterrent. We also would have done the same thing for independence, while for independence, the use of fireworks is not as prevalent as Diwali and as it will be over the next a few days into the Christmas season. What we also did, the commanders were asked to even engage the general public by using the Beyond the Tape program. We dedicated an entire press brief in relation to fireworks just on the eve of Diwali. There was also a press release that was made in relation to Diwali. And by extension, we tried long before to have our community police officers in moving around, engaging with the schools to speak to the law and the harmful effects of fireworks. Now, whilst we are saying here that we had 24 reports, I think, I don't know if, because we all aware that rain really fell across the country on Diwali night. So we don't know if possible that could have in any way mitigated. But those were some of the initiatives that we took, really to say, well, there's a correlation now with just, and 24 reports to my mind is across the country to my mind is really minimal, right? But whether or not any other factors might have contributed to that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd just like to go to Chief Executive Officer of Fire One. Welcome, sir. You are a licensed, authorized wholesaler of fireworks. That's officially on the records of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes.
Okay, fine. In terms of within the next couple of days, and we have seen it for Diwali and other occasions, whereby we see these tents at various malls throughout Trinidad and Tobago and at strategic locations where tents, fire one, and where you do retail selling. Is it that you have to get permission from any of the necessary regulatory agencies in Trinidad and Tobago to be located at these outlets in order to sell your fireworks? That's one. Two, is it that by selling it in those locations, are you properly secured health-wise, in terms of storage, in terms of all the necessary deliverables, safety and so on, at these locations, West Mall, I've seen you by Price Smart, you know, those various locations. Could you just shed some light on those particular aspects, please?
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Every location that sells fireworks products has to obtain a retail explosive license that is granted by a magistrate. The magistrate relies on the advice of the police and fire services before granting the approval. On the topic of safety, I mean, we've started this business in 1995, and people think, you know, fireworks is explosive, but actually, if one of those locations were to have an accident, a fire, for example, consumer fireworks burns just as a table or a chair would burn. And in our opinion, and what is done internationally, we've sort of adopted the policies that we've seen in the US. And if a situation were to occur, it's probably better away from a building on its own. So let's say there was a fire, it would burn as a standalone, and it wouldn't affect the other buildings that are in its surroundings. And that's how we ended up with that model. Rather than take the product within a building where there are a lot more, let's say if we were talking about a mall, for example, there are a lot more persons attending the mall, shopping, a lot more stores. So we are of the view that a lot less can happen outside of a building rather than inside a building.
Follow-up question. Are there expiry dates on fireworks?
It's not noted, it's not printed, but usually we would rotate our stock every 2 years. And we look at our consumption habits, and then we forecast based on what the trends have been. So usually when inventory comes in, it would last maybe one season, and then our stocks are not completely depleted, but 80% depleted, and then we will restock. So every year and a half, every 2 years, you have fresh stock coming in.
Okay, one other question, Mr. Chairman. Noiseless fireworks. We were told that they are noiseless fireworks.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Do you import any of those?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of...
But is it marketable? Do you all promote it? Because when I say I've never heard Fire One said anything about noiseless fireworks, because, you know, the representative from Health is here? No, they are not here, right? Where they talk about the decibel levels with regards to animals and pets and so on, and even to some individuals, you know, the differently abled and so on. In terms of the promotion of noiseless fireworks, is there profit? Because I think you're in the whole business for profit, right?
Well,
okay, all right, no, hold on, okay, I will answer it.
Let me just say that this business started off in the days of bamboo bursting, saltpeters, and carbide. So this is a business that wasn't meant to make money. That might sound strange. We didn't wake up one morning, just to put it on the record, we didn't wake up one morning and said, you know, we could make money selling fireworks. This was a childhood fascination of my own, where I would take the Klim bottles and put the carbide in it and spit and light. I went through the whole evolution before Fire One was created. So of all people, I have a vested interest from a passionate point of view to ensure that everyone is treated fairly in this industry. So what was your original question?
In terms of songless fireworks,
right, so,
and the benefits and profitable in order to promote it as an aspect within our climate in Trinidad and Tobago?
So back to the carbide, bamboo, saltpeters. Before Fire One came on the market in 1995, there was a huge amount of scratch bombs that controlled the entire market. So when we launched, well, first of all, a scratch bomb product is not something that we endorse or sell. It enters the country through the back door, and it's a product that is not internationally tested. It's overpowered. So there's a lot more black powder in a scratch bomb than a normal fireworks product, and it has no labeling. So when you ignite it, it's very, very explosive. Unfortunately, people connect anything that goes bang to our company. So we have that issue of educating the population in terms of buying safe type of products. And on the other side of the coin, even though the laws in Trinidad and Tobago do not exactly...
Mr. Abraham, one sec. Just in terms of, I understand the information you're trying to give us, it's good information, but exactly in terms of the soundless fireworks.
The issue is noiseless
is it profitable?
Fireworks.
Can we introduce it into our market? Can we promote it?
Yes,
tell us something.
We have it. Okay. Fireworks, we have several different classifications of fireworks.
A point to get on focus. What percentage of the fireworks sold in Trinidad and Tobago can be deemed to be noiseless, and what percentage will raise the decibel level? Is it 10% noiseless, 90% noisy? What is the proportion?
I wouldn't have the exact numbers. I can provide that. But I would say that the songless fireworks, they are popular, but not as popular as the other ones that go in the sky and open up into colors.
One last question. Do you sell fireworks to persons under 18 years?
No.
No. So if are under 18, present your ID card or they come with their parents accordingly?
That is a strict policy at all our locations and at our facilities in Macoya. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Ford, just to add, anyone that shops at Fire One needs to be verified. So they must show their ID, they must sign a form, they must give us all the info. So we know our clients and we know who we are selling to. And again, this is something that we've implemented outside of the law of Trinidad and Tobago that we've learned from following the guidelines in the US and the UK, the NFPA policies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abraham. One follow-up question on that, and that is, do you provide any instruction at all to buyers of the product on how to safely use this product? Or is it that anyone can come in with no instruction, buy a quantity, and he's left on his or her own to fire off the items?
Yes, we do. Every customer comes to our store, they are bombarded with video presentations, with leaflets on how to use the fireworks products. And every product that we import into Trinidad and Tobago, even though we don't have the strict guidelines to follow, we have self-adopted the NFPA guidelines, which uses an agency called the AFSL, which is the American Fireworks Safety Laboratory, which inspects every single fireworks product that is produced in China. So the products that come to Trinidad meet the international standards set out by the NFPA in the US. And just on that point, each product is labeled with instructions on how to use the product. So besides our promotion of safety in the newspapers, at the store, every customer gets a leaflet. The product itself has the information on how to use it safely.
Very well, thank you very much. I will come back to that point, and I would want to raise an issue with the fire services, and Mr. Dulal challenge just that point. The law stipulates a 60 feet distance between the firing of a fireworks on the middle of the street. But I will hold that until I get, because now that I know that people are trained, I want to know what the police and the fire are doing to ensure that they don't fire this thing off under the 60 feet guidelines as given by the law. But MP Niwalo Hussein, you have a question. You come in.
I have two follow-up and a question. The first follow-up, and I'm speaking to Ms. Abraham. You made a comment just now, and I just got a little bit confused. You said that the soundless pyrotechnics, people prefer the other one, you know, the color and so forth. And I got a little bit confused. What is the fundamental difference other than no sound? Or, is there between the soundless pyrotechnics and the ordinary ones? You made a comment, you said color, and I was just wondering if there is a diminished exuberance when it explodes.
Well, to get the fireworks up in the sky, it requires black powder, which propels the rocket or the device, and then to get the stars to open out, it also requires black powder. So when that ignites, everything opens in the sky. So some of the other, which are the more popular products, some of the other products we sell are like fountains. So it stays on the ground and it emits like a shower.
So tell me the difference now with the soundless. What happens with the soundless?
So a soundless fireworks would stay on the ground, for example, and it would emit some showers of sparks. So it wouldn't shoot off into the sky and then burst into colors. And then there are other products that stay on the ground and it spins as well and just burst, you know, the colors come out. They're sparklers. It's considered a fireworks, which is just sparklers. So it's quite a bit of soundless products. But obviously, what catches everyone's attention is the loud ones, which in most cases is not even our product, but scratch bombs that are illegally imported.
Okay, thanks for the explanation, because I was kind of wondering there. I did not know the difference, so I'm glad for that. Going back to an earlier statement you made as well, you said you, based on the American model, you have established these outlets outside of a building to limit the amount of any mishap that may occur. What is the proximity, the distance in terms of proximity that one should have the outlet from established business infrastructure?
Usually we go as far as possible. So if there's a patch of grass or a field away from the building, we'll go to the very furthest point.
This is a cellar?
To sell, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, for example,
so there's no proximity guideline in terms of the U.S. model?
Not that I'm familiar with. Remember, when these fireworks ignite, it burns. It doesn't explode. Versus the Class B items, which are the ones used on the large-scale shows, that requires special storage, which we take care of at our bunker in Mount Catherine. So that type of product, if it ignites, we will have a crater in a building, for example, versus a controlled fire.
Okay, so now that I'm finishing my follow-up, this is my question. Based on research conducted by the Secretariat, the committee noted that the Section 7 of the United Kingdom's Fireworks Regulations 2004 outlines provisions that regulates the fixed times and dates for the disbursement and display of fireworks. Do you agree that amendments should be made to our laws to mirror that of the UK and other countries who have designated days and times for the use of fireworks?
Definitely yes to that. The law that governs the fireworks industry is really an explosive law. It's 100 years old. It hasn't kept up with the industry. And having fireworks set off on specific days and specific times would solve a lot of everybody's problems, because it would make the police and the fire job a lot more easy, because they wouldn't have to distinguish if it's a legal product or an illegal product. Once it's lit outside of that time period, then they can act on it. All they would require is a neighbor to take a picture and have some level of evidence. And the society will adapt once we set the guidelines to follow. So, I mean, we believe that in a win-win scenario, so the people who love fireworks and who want to celebrate, if we give them a couple hours on New Year's night, for example, or Independence Night or Diwali, just a couple hours on that specific night, then people who have pets and senior members of our society can make provisions. And then if the laws are strict enough so that if you break it, there's a consequence, people will obey the laws. And so right now, if someone is caught with fireworks, what is the consequence? I mean, the police working hard, running down somebody who lighting fireworks, and then they get a small fine. It needs to be much more strict.
Could I interject here and ask you to have your company provide the committee with your recommendations as to what you think would be the appropriate regulations which could govern fireworks use? Because, as you know, Parliament has the power to ban fireworks altogether. Some jurisdictions in the world have done so. What we are looking at as a compromise situation for those who like noise and those who abhor it is what is the regulatory mechanism, time of night, the hours of use, the amount you can send up. If you could send us that on what you consider to be the regulations that the committee can consider, so that when we come to look at the laws, we may look at amend the laws based upon regulations recommended by the dealers themselves. Yes.
Okay. Chairman, just to say, if they were outright ban on fireworks, we would go right back to 1994, where illegal items take over the market, a product that is not safe gets into consumer hands, entire black market is created. And we all know what happens when there's a black market.
And we're aware of that. It's an option that is available. But right now, the option that we have is not working for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. The decibel level on All Year's Night is going to be unacceptable for people and pets of all ages. We have had the issue last year where the fire services indicated that there was a fire in Port of Spain East or something in which a wheelchair-bound citizen actually died. So the situation is getting to an unacceptable position for a number of people, and we do need to address what we could do to ensure that that is not repeated. We have seen a citizen lose her fingers with a scratch bomb. So these devices, you have said that you do not market those scratch bombs, but the devices are now causing harm. And we want to minimize the harm. That's our responsibility in the Parliament. We haven't really spoken to fire just yet. I'm giving other committee members a chance. But really, we would like to get your views on the regulations, because we do want to ensure that the harm that is experienced by the population, including the pet population, owners of pets, can be minimized. And on that basis, MP Dulalchan, the Summary Offences Act, it could be MP, Superintendent, Commissioner, maybe you could be MP too, right? But you see, the Summary Offences Act specifically states that cruelty to animals is a criminal offense, and that we did get advice from the Ministry of Agriculture, who indicated that, well, they look at more agricultural animals. When it comes to domestic animals, the duty to enforce the summary offenses then falls on the police, so that reports will be made for pets. And we know now, more and more pets are comfort animals to people. It's no longer something nice to have. They need that as part of their life. So I will come to those issues when other committee members have been given an opportunity. To address as a response to Mr. Abraham, yes, we know that there are problems with bans, but we know that there are problems too when a situation is unregulated. And we would be looking at appropriate regulations. Who would be in the best position to offer the committee on appropriate regulations? The dealers, but the EMA on its research, the police on enforcing the law, and the fire services, because the fire services know about fire more than most. and they know about what can cause a fire. And we have the Ministry of National Security, which must rely on the EMA for advice with respect to the granting of the licenses. Licenses for to import must be signed by the Minister of National Security, must they not? Right, and so a question before the committee members come in. Have you granted any new licenses for the importation for 2017?
Yes, we have, Chair, we have granted one.
You have granted one. Did you get advice from the EMA with respect to the quantity, with respect to the type that you could import, the decibel levels and so on, or did you just grant a license without the technical information?
The procedure that is usually followed is that the minister would ask for the views of the Commissioner of Police as well as Fire, who would do the necessary investigations and advise the minister accordingly.
Okay.
EMA would not have been involved.
Right. So the Commissioner of Police will have been asked, did the police get information from the EMA? You see, I'm trying to see how various arms of the state can start to work together. If I am the Commissioner of Police and I know nothing about decibel levels, I will ask the people who know. And was there any overture to the EMA from the police to find out really how much harm this thing is going to cause to the noise level of people? Deputy Commissioner?
So, well, regrettably, I'm not in a position to speak in relation to that specific license. I can't say.
Okay, very well. But Commissioner, I just want to get your views that when the views of the police or the fire services or any agency are solicited, it would make sense to really rely on the agency of the state that has the technical information so that your decision can be an informed one as opposed to simply a bureaucratic one. It appears that these licenses are granted on a bureaucratic procedure as opposed to a scientific. So could we recommend then that when you have to make recommendations on these, the law says that you must do it because you enforce the law, but you do need inputs from other agencies that you will collaborate with the EMA on this one?
I think it's important, sir,
Yeah,
that collaboration do in fact take place.
Yes, very well. Yeah, and may I ask the dealer about the process for applying for the license, that a license was granted. I don't know if it was granted to your firm, Mr. Abraham, but what is the process of obtaining one of these licenses, and what is the amount that is imported? And I'm coming to the police with respect to scales, because I don't know I know the police have vehicles. I don't know if they have weighing stations. The law gives them the power to enforce or impose a fine on anywhere there is an excess of 150 pounds. So police, I don't know if you have scales. When was the last time you calibrated the scales? If you have ever weighed, but that you think about that while I pose a question.
Chairman, just the 150 pounds that they refer to is actually the black powder in the device.
Right.
And these devices have milligrams of black powder. So an entire container of goods would not even amount to the what is stated in the law. So just for your information on the
when
weight.
I read the law, it says 150 pounds of explosives, you know, and we can get into the legal technicalities on whether it's a powder in the explosive or whether it's a packaging and so on. I won't get there. If I were the police, and I am not, but if I were the police, I will get me a scale. And this is a recommendation to the Deputy Commissioner of Police. The law gives you the power to go and weigh the items. And if the scale can only weigh 10 pounds, Deputy Commissioner, you need to do it about 15 times. And then you would know anything in excess of the 15 is more than what they're supposed to have, and it's charge time. So that there are ways to enforce the law. I know we haven't enforced the law in the past, but we have old laws. But the old laws are not as archaic. We can enforce them. There are licenses which are required. We need to inspect them, simply to let the population know that we are looking at the matter. We have animal rights laws. They have, and that is since the 1950s. So we do need to call the police now if you feel that somebody is harming your pet, and the police will now have the power to impose the sanctions. So with respect to the question that I was posed, and Senator Amin has not yet come in, and there are so many issues arising. The license that was it granted to your company? And what was the amount that was approved?
So just as the representative from Ministry of National Security mentioned, we would work within the framework of the laws set out in Trinidad and Tobago. So we would apply to the Ministry of National Security and then send copies to police and also to fire services. Unfortunately, the law doesn't speak about the EMA, so we just stick with those two agencies.
Okay.
And then the police will do an investigation, and the fire would do the same, and they would send their recommendations to the
So could
minister.
you give us an indication of the quantity that was imported, the new quantity that was imported?
So it doesn't make financial sense to bring in more than you're going to sell.
Right.
Because you're going to use warehouse space. It's going to require US dollars, which is another topic. You're going to require more financing.
Right. Is it a container, 2 containers, 3 containers, 5?
Well, it's usually based on our consumption.
Right.
So we would look at what the market requires, and we would just replenish.
Okay. So the license didn't give you a limit. The license just gave you a permit to import. It did not give you a limit that you are limited to so many of these items.
It does give you a limit. And I have to also commend the Ministry of National Security, because they have also set reduced quantities in terms of the amount we are allowed to import.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. I have been dominating. It's not my role to so do. Senator Amin has been very quiet. So Senator Amin, please come in at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know you are very passionate about this issue and the public nuisance that it causes. I had a follow-up earlier with regards to the report submitted by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service on the number of reports submitted to the TTPS during that period, August 30th to 31st this year, with regards to nuisances and discharge of fireworks. And earlier, one member referred to the report where you had very few reports being made, and then you spoke of your challenges in terms of pursuing them, where people were spoken to, but you got no useful information in almost all of the situations. Mr. Chairman, this comes together with the fact that the police would have indicated their challenges with manpower and other resources, the fact that we have an increase in other issues such as robberies and so on. And in fact, there are people who experience robberies and don't even bother to make reports because they feel that it is more trouble than just getting past the incident. My question to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, you spoke of your strategies, and some of them are geared towards responding when there is a nuisance, but I am happy to hear that many of your initiatives are based on education, changing the culture, and preventing the nuisance, because to respond to the nuisance really goes nowhere. I want to ask you if you, with regards to that, have you established, for instance, any hotlines? Are you collaborating with community groups or NGOs, watchdog groups, and the role of the municipal police officers in regulating and the discharge of fireworks within the communities?
No, we have not considered initiating any hotlines in relation to this topic. I don't know what might be the logistical concerns that we may probably have to look at, but the E99, that 999 line remains open. We do, in fact, work very closely with our officers who are, in fact, working at the regional corporations, but we are well aware that in some regional corporations, you just have 5 and 6 officers, and at present, up to yesterday, we were told that just within recent time, they would have completed interviewing about 480 officers. So hopefully, once the municipal corporations is in fact properly well beefed up, we should be able to do much more. But just to indicate, I think the challenge here really is getting the support to corroborate. And we need that from the police. I mean, within seconds, and most of the packaging and so on, disintegrate with the explosion of the commodity. So we are in fact challenged. I think that is why it's important for us to really bring in this sort of control, and maybe, just maybe, whether or not, depending on the regulations that will be formulated, specific time, location, and days, and so on, whether we may now have to consider that if you purchase fireworks, and the fireworks is after that event, whether it is now an offense, it's an offense to even keep it in your possession, or whether there might be regulations that you need to take it back to the person, the dealer, and so on. So those are things that can be discussed. Those are things that can be discussed.
So for the public, so the information of the public, they can call the E99 lines to report any nuisance with regards to fireworks over the upcoming weeks.
Definitely, definitely. The E99 line in your local police station.
And I would want to ask the EMA if they...
Let me follow up on that one.
I wanted to ask EMA if they have a hotline.
Right, okay, but before you ask EMA, Mr. Dulalchan, do your officers have tape measures in addition to scales?
Yes,
tape
sir.
measures.
Yes, sir.
And can it go to about 70 feet?
100 feet, sir.
It can go to 100 feet.
100 feet, sir.
Have you ever had officers roving officers in a hotspot, moving around, going into areas and measuring 60 feet from the center of the road to where they think the fireworks was exploded, because the law gives you that power? Has it ever been done?
Not to my knowledge.
Right, and okay, I want to advise the population that the police of Trinidad and Tobago have the power to estimate that distance. The law says anything in excess of 60 feet from the center of the road is a criminal offense liable to a charge. So that I think if people know that they cannot fire this thing off or explode this thing 55 feet from the center of the road, or 40 feet, or 59 feet from the center, they must be 61 feet before they can explode one of these devices. I think the police would find it themselves in a good position, where they can control a lot of the activities, especially where the homes are close by. And you know that there is no way there could be 60 feet from the end of the house to the middle of the road. So I think it is important for the police to engage in a public education campaign to advise the population about the 60 feet rule. We can consider 120 feet rule, of course, but currently the law gives, as you know, summary offenses, 120. But now, that was a follow-up.
Yeah. But if the EMA, does the EMA have a hotline for the public with regards to nuisance?
Yes, we do have a complaints line, and it's 680-9588.
Very well.
And you can also contact us on by email, complaints@ema.co.tt.
And you do have voicemail, because I have called the EMA on a couple of times and I did not get a person to speak to at the time. So I hope you have a voicemail where a message could be left so that it could be recorded. Thank you.
Yeah. Chair, just a question based on what you indicated there. Is it a normal practice, or is the tape measure a piece of equipment that a police officer is, it's attached to his body, that he goes and he has it on him at all times?
Not necessarily. We usually use those tapes to measure when we have road traffic accidents and so on.
Yeah, no, Mr. Dulalchan, the Summary Offences Act must be enforced by the police. And what we are saying is that the police has the power. Police officers have the power, and in order to enforce the law, they must take evidence. And the law gives you the 60 feet rule. and you can only enforce it if you weigh the merchandise on the one hand, and if you measure the distance on the other hand. In that way, you can take the case to the magistrate and say, well, we have dutifully measured, we had witnesses, and they were exploding this thing within 45 feet of the center of the road. So I think if the police force were to start thinking now, not only road traffic accident, which is important, but this nuisance which is growing, I think we will go in some direction in gradually addressing the problem. But Nawal Hussain, MP, you have another question?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Mr. Morando if the hotline is in fact 24/7.
The complaints line, which is the 680-9588, is 24/7.
Have you received any complaints on that hotline regarding fireworks?
Yes, we have received complaints regarding fireworks. I do not have the figures here in terms of how many complaints we've received regarding fireworks, but I can tell you that the majority of our complaints, and I would say over 80% of our complaints on the hotline, is noise.
And in that regard, what do you do in light of the fact that we understand that the noise level in terms of fireworks is not under the remit of the EMA? What do you do with the complaints?
In most instances, we will contact the police and we will tell them about the complaints that people are complaining about fireworks in X area. So we will contact the nearest police station.
And how soon is this information dispatched to the TTPS? Because if a complaint comes now, is it that they're speaking to a human, or is it a voice message that they actually speak to?
It is a human. It is,
right.
I mean, somebody would answer the 680-9588 24/7.
Something is very wrong, because based on the report from the police, the TTPS, in light of the fact that you've made that statement, according to the police, no reports were ever made. No reports for Independence, Port of Spain, no reports. Diwali, nil. Western, no reports. Diwali, nil. Northern, no reports. Diwali, 6 reports. Northeastern, no reports. Diwali, nil. And this is Independence and Diwali. Eastern, no reports. Diwali, 2 reports. Central, no reports. Diwali, nil. And so something is very wrong, and I could continue with the list.
No, I think if we didn't have a report on fireworks, I mean, we wouldn't make a report. If we have a report on noise, we will investigate the report on noise. Yes.
Understood, EMA. Right, we'd like to get that report supplied, but may I also recommend to the EMA that you put on social media where the advertising, I understand, is free as opposed to the regular media, the EMA's hotlines, and that any nuisances can be reported to the EMA using these telephone numbers, these email contacts, these particular media, so that the EMA then will be the repository of a lot of the complaints, which will then be able to inform the police as to where the problem areas may be, so that police time can be more efficiently utilized. You see, if in fact this thing were to work right, and you get a tremendous amount of reports on Old Year's Night, and you simply call Mr. Dulalchan and say, Mr. Dulalchan, in the area X, Y, Z, we're getting numerous complaints, he can then deploy his mobile officers with the tapes and so on to ensure that simply, you see, there is the enforcement of the law and there's the presence of the law. Simply seeing a police officer with a blue light, a police vehicle, can in fact cause people to control their adverse behavior. But it makes no sense going into an area where there is no big problem, when the EMA can compile the data to inform the police that you should take a look at this area, see if you could send a few vehicles around. People on the streets may stop the police and they may indicate, well, look, so-and-so, they're causing major harm. So I think with collaboration, police and EMA, there should be some major issue. We haven't brought in fire services in quite a while. And I know we have questions, but I want to bring in, could you hold that question, the fire services? Right, but I just want the fire services to think about the question while you pose the follow-up. These devices must be stored in magazines. They must be stored according to specifications. I don't know them Maybe the police don't know them, but you know them. The fire services know everything about fire. I just would like to find out, when was the last time you checked, and did the storage areas meet the specifications as per the regulations set out by the fire department? But before you answer that, Ms. Nawala Hussain has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Based on the discussions that Chair just spoke about, Chair asked Managing Director, Mr. Romano, to call Deputy Commissioner of Police, which would not be practicable, but it brings up a very important point. When you got these reports, whom did you call? Did you call a specific person, or did you direct your complaints to each division that the calls came from?
So if we have complaints that we feel is better handled by the police, we will direct it to the division. We would not direct it to the DCP. What we are doing with the DCP is actually defining who are the people we should contact in the 9 divisions. I mean, and that's what we're working on right now with the DCP.
Excellent. But in the meanwhile, when you submit the report to us, if you can identify the various divisions that you had spoken with.
We will do that, yeah.
Very well. Senator Amin, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to come back to the police. The Act gives you the authority to inspect premises, to enter premises where there is any wholesale or retail, and to inspect the explosives in the stock of the dealer, as well as the receptacles in which they may be stored. And we are speaking a lot about the prevention rather than response. And I want to ask if the TTPS intends to undertake any inspections during this Christmas, New Year's period to ensure that all retailers and wholesalers adhere to the provisions of the Explosives Act. And in particular, well, the chairman mentioned the compliance with the 30-pound limit in terms of the amount of explosives that the retailer may have on sale for the safety of the public. Do you intend to do any inspections?
We continue to ensure that address most of those licensed premises.
Could you please activate the microphone?
Oh, sorry. We continue to ensure that those licensed premises are in fact visited to ensure that there is compliance, and we'll continue to do so. But just coming back to the weight, I think we will in fact be challenged because of the composition of the explosive. But when I say the explosive, the composition of the firework, you may just have a very minuscule part of it being explosive. So the whole issue of how do you going to dissect the explosive by way of weight, and I think that is a challenge. And I think that is why, even yesterday when we knew we had to come here, we were engaging and we were saying that whether or not the time has come when the firework itself should be stated how much explosive is in fact in each, so that it allows you, it gives you the opportunity to do a calculation to determine the weight.
Okay, very important point, Mr. Dulalchan. Are you recommending then that it would be beneficial for the firework itself, not only to have the weight of the explosive there, but maybe the decibel level, the manufacturer, having exploded this device after he has made it, can put it in his packaging what the decibel level is. And therefore, you ought in the police to know whether the fireworks that is being sold exceeds a certain amount of decibels. Because you see, fireworks will be used by a range of agencies. The police will use it on Independence Day, so that's a different type. And then people will use it. And that there may be, according to what the managing director of Fire One is saying, that there can be a differential in the type of fireworks used by the police for, say, Independence Day celebrations and the type that is used by households on New Year's Day celebrations based upon decibel level. So it may very well be that we need to get the content of the the powder in there, as well as the noise level. Once it has exploded, what is the noise level from where it is going to explode to someone hearing on the ground? Do you think that is where we might want to go in regulations?
Certainly, and what it will do, it will allow the police officer to actually see someone, and just by merely checking it, if it is not within the specifications and within regulations, you can probably seize and possibly prosecute.
Mr. Abraham here, is it possible, Mr. Abraham, for the manufacturer to do as is suggested, to put on each of these explosive devices the decibel level that one can expect once it has exploded?
So once you're working with a Chinese manufacturer, you have an option to buy a certain type of product. We self-regulate ourselves and import items that that are inspected by AFSL, American Fireworks Safety Laboratory. So basically, every single product has a criteria: how much black powder, how much stars, and if you visit any of our stores, you will see this stamp on every product and every cartoon. So they manufacture it based on the American standard. The UK standard is actually a bit higher, and we could bring from the UK the UK type product, but it's louder. It uses white powder and not black powder. But because we are responsible and we care about the industry, we choose to buy products that meet the American standard. And to answer your question, yes, they can provide all the technical information. We have a stat sheet for each product that we import. And I guess this is where customs would come in, because if we had if we adopted the NFPA guidelines and modified it to Trinidad and Tobago, we wouldn't have to reinvent anything, and we can follow that as a guideline.
That's very valuable, because what in fact we are getting now is that since it is possible to actually determine the specification of each of the explosive devices, then we can consider, couldn't we, limiting the amount each consumer can purchase at a time and regulating the amount he's going to explode within an hour, within a period of an hour, so that we will know that if he has one with X decibel level and he's limited by 10, and the license given to the vendor is that he can sell no more than 10. If you buy more than 10 from another vendor, it's your problem, but you are given a certain amount to explode with a certain decibel level, it may go in some way towards minimizing the harm that citizens cause to other citizens because of the unregulated nature of the business. But I would like to bring in the fire services. Fire services, you're supposed to inspect the magazines. You know everything about building specifications to ensure that these devices are not going to cause problems. Have you done so, and what have you found?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are obligated under the Fire Service Act, Chapter 3550, and Part 5 of the USH Act 2004-2006 as amended, to inspect all industrial premises. And what is of concern to us is the storage, where all these minuscule, as Mr. Abraham put it, explosives are stored. The combined effect that will have in a fire or an explosion will be devastating. And we inspect these every year. We inspect it under OSHA to issue a fire and life safety certificate saying that people can access there. The storage is safe. It complies with fire safety regulations. The fixed installations are in place. So there is no risk following our risk management inspections. There is no risk of a hazard to the public. And we do inspect these places, as I said before. But I want to come back to something you said just now about the coordination of the different departments to mitigate this disaster that could be potentially happening. And that places like Customs is under the Ministry of Finance, the EMA, I'm not sure what Ministry of Planning, and then we have our own silo in the Ministry of National Security. We need to get together. We really need, so that we can be on a common page, a common platform to launch together to get proper legislation. And we at the ministry, we collaborate. We know what we want, and we are focusing as the way forward. But to come back to your question, in terms of the inspection, I will ask Ms. Sub-Officer Wilson, as the inspector, to come in.
Mr. Chairman, well, as an inspector, we inspect these premises regularly. But what the fire service, as an inspector, what we like to see is the, when we look at the Explosive Act, that act really predates the existence of the fire service. So there's no mention of fire officers there. And what is in place presently is that with our collaboration with the police service, we assist with the importation, transportation, and storage. And because that's how it's happening, our force and our power in terms of engaging with agencies is a bit limited. So we appeal more to the person's good nature, education, and sense. So what the fire service would like to see is, as an inspector, someone who's out there, is that you have the, while we use the OSH Act, but it's bits and pieces that the service is putting together.
Recommendation to the committee as to what change you would like to see in the Explosive Act in particular, or maybe the Fire Services Act?
Right. We did submit our regulations, which is in harmony with the NFPA and the best practice, and things that we would like to see actually enforced.
My other question, Mr. Chairman, on the last occasion you were here, the police had advised the committee that people who wish to sell fireworks and they had to make an application to the court. Does the police work with the magistrate court to keep track of the number of applicants for these retail license, and is there a database of information for these persons who are seasonal retailers? You have the well-established, like Mr. Abraham and Fire One Fireworks, but you have those people who do it seasonally, and they make applications to the magistrate's court. Do you receive that information as a matter of procedure, and then do you follow up in terms of inspecting the premises that those people will be retailing at?
The police will in fact have information as to who would have applied for retail license, and part of the requirement is to check to ensure that they do in fact have what is required, and as I already alluded to, those licensed places are in fact visited.
Are those places visited by the police, the fire services as well, to the fire officers?
Yes, a copy would come to the fire service. We get the document from the ministry and then pertaining to the courts. So after our inspection, we then submit a document to the courts stating whether they have met the standard or whether we object to they being granted a license.
Inspected and premises and rejected? I mean, offered your own position with respect to whether that a license should not be accepted?
We have closed down the government's bunker for 2 months already.
That?
About 2 years ago.
All right. What was wrong with it? Could you indicate what was wrong with it?
Everything, sir. Everything in terms of a fire hazard.
Okay, everything for a fireman knows everything it can cause a fire. But
yes, sir.
Really, it was not. If it's a government bunker, it was supposed to be designed for the purpose.
It was designed, but then there was a degree of proper housekeeping, and it just went away. All right.
P. Antoine?
Yes, I would like to ask two questions. One dealing with the first hearing that we had. We recommended that a current inventory of the fireworks be taken. I want to know if that inventory was done, and also, is there a breakdown in terms of active and expired fireworks? Do we know out of the inventory of fireworks what percentage is active, what percentage is expired? And if any expired fireworks is getting onto the market, being sold on the market? That's the first question. The second one deals with the firecrackers. scratch bomb and firecrackers are illegal in terms of Trinidad and Tobago. Is any of this getting onto the market, being sold and by retailers? And in terms of the firecrackers, the police has the authority to seize the illegal or the firecrackers and enter premises in order to do it. Is that being done as the case may be?
With respect to the firecrackers, once that information do in fact come to hand, the police take the required action.
Was it disposed of? Has any been ever been seized? And if yes, how were they disposed of?
From my recollection, I know for a fact over the years, from time to time, those firecrackers are in fact seized. In terms of disposal, I'm not in a position to say at this point in time.
And yes, the first question was the inventory. Do we know, in terms of the firecracker, not firecracker, in terms of fireworks, and if we have any old fireworks that is expired and if that is getting onto the market?
I would not be able to say that in relation to those outlets and those warehouses. I wouldn't be able to say.
Alshan, I come to the issue of the police canine unit, and I'm going to link it to what the matter is here. The police of Trinidad and Tobago in the past, I don't know if they currently have a canine unit, but the police officers who are in that unit are very well versed in dealing with animals like dogs and pets. The Act, so the technical capability has existed in the past in the police force. The Summary Offences Act has indicated that the cruelty to animals clause is one that is in existence since the 1950s. What I'd like to know is the police now in a position to respond to individuals who complain that their pets are at risk because of the adverse consequences of fireworks? We took evidence from the Veterinary Association of Trinidad and Tobago prior, indicating that these explosive devices are multiplied many folds when in the air of an animal because their hearing is so acute. Are you in a position to take a complaint from a pet owner and to visit and then ensure that the devices being exploded around are causing harm to this particular pet, and therefore you can lay charges to people who are exploding devices outside the 60 feet area because of now adverse consequences on animal health and welfare? Have you given thought to that, or do you think that the police can enforce that section of the Summary Offences Act?
So, well, I just want to say that we do, in fact, have a well-established canine unit.
Excellent.
And they're, in fact, doing a tremendous job for us as an organization and as a country. I think the important thing here is whether or not we can get the corroboration from the persons who, in fact, report to the police. I think that is really the issue, except now, if we may now probably have to take the dogs and whether they have the capacity to go and actually smell around the environment to determine whether or not a firecracker was in fact, a fireworks were in fact discharged at a particular location, and then probably take the measurement and so on. It will in fact be cumbersome, but it's something that we can probably look at. May not be able to do that in all the cases, but just to probably see how best we can probably look at all the various variables that are afforded to us to really see how we can assist in
Very
this
well.
regard.
I have read the Summary Offences Act, and I have looked at the need of the police for scales and the police for measuring tape. But when I looked at the section of the Act which dealt with distress to animals, it just meant that the police, in its own deliberations, its own rationale, having determined that someone is causing harm to animals, can take action, legal action. The fine is small, $400, but the power of the police is there to ensure. Now, of course, the reason I raised the canine that is that the majority of the pet population may be dogs, but we're talking about other types of pets as well. Yes, but the canine unit, I think, is a place to start. And I think if the police canine unit can give consideration to distress the dogs, because I am sure no police officer who is working with one of his working dogs would want to see that particular dog in a situation where he is being totally destroyed by excessive noise and by noise pollution. So I think that level of technical expertise exists within your organization. I think that you should consider it at the level of planning, how you would look at that expertise and apply it to the regular population, so that someone from if I have made a complaint, someone from the canine unit can simply come and say, okay, I think these dogs are in really serious distress, and I am going to lay a charge to the people who are causing harm to this animal. The law gives you that power. While we are looking at various changes to the legislation, I think we have to work within the laws which currently exist. And the laws which currently exist gives the police powers, maybe not wide powers, but the police certainly is empowered, and I think the population ought to know about it. Any other questions from the committee? There is also, again, from the perspective of the EMA, Mr. Abraham, there is a growing population of retired persons in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have to understand the demographics of Trinidad. We do have an aging population. When we look at the population statistics, we see that every year more and more persons enter the above 60 rank. When we look at the geriatric statistic, more and more people are entering the 80+ ranks. People are living longer, they are the retirees. These retirees are also people with pets. Perhaps the pet is the only companion that they have. And we are, as a responsible parliament, looking at the welfare of the population, 60+ the retired, the babies in Trinidad and Tobago who can't complain, and the pet population, because we have a situation. We understand Mr. Abraham's position where he started with Kabai and bursting bamboo. There are some people who like noise. And there are other people who find it abhorrent. We are striking a balance. How can those people who like the noise enjoy the celebrations by minimizing the harm to the people who are adversely affected? The police comes in, the EMA comes in, the fire services comes in, the Ministry of National Security comes in. So we will be looking carefully to see to what extent we can ensure that at least on this occasion, while we are looking at the law, on this occasion, the population will be behaving responsibly. Yeah. Well, I thought we had exhausted, but Brigadier Antoine has a question.
Well, it is more a statement than a question. This is the third hearing that we are having on fireworks. And in previous hearings, you made certain recommendations that we need to have collaboration between the various agencies. And I get the impression that is not happening because there is no lead agency. And I believe that has to be the responsibility of the Ministry of National Security, because they are the ones who are dealing with the in terms of the fireworks and so forth. So I think there's a need in our future recommendations that some agency or some person in the Ministry of National Security becomes the lead person in dealing with this situation, because the fireworks is detrimental to the health of both humans and animals in Trinidad and Tobago, and it needs to be regulated.
Chairman, before we wrap, in the last occasion, I think earlier this year, the EMA indicated that they were considering some amendments to the noise pollution control rules to treat with various sources of sound, and including sound from fireworks. And I want to ask, what is the status of the revision of those rules, and if the EMA can indicate if you have had any consultations, who you would have had consultations with, and if you intend to continue this process in terms of consulting so that the public and interested NGOs and individuals can contact you to be a part of that revision of the rules. And if you have started this process, do you have any recommendations coming out thus far? If you could just update us on the status with the update of the noise pollution control rules.
We have started internally the process of the revision of the rules. A number of items we feel need to be done almost immediately. And no, we have not, in terms of the noise rules, we have not done any public consultations or consultations with other agencies as yet. We're doing the draft in-house before we go out to do any consultations.
So you intend to, and members of the public could look forward to participating in those when you advertise them?
Of course, we will have, like we did with the National Environmental Policy, I mean, we will also have consultations in terms of the noise rules. Yes.
Mr. Romano, in your earlier statement, you indicated that you were going to embark on a program, and by January you would have a report for us. Can you remind us what that report is about?
The report will be the EMA's recommendations based on what we see in other jurisdictions for the way forward for Trinidad and Tobago with fireworks. So it will actually be recommendations, having looked at other jurisdictions in what we the EMA, feel should happen with fireworks, and including options.
And you're going to include any other stakeholders while you're proposing these recommendations?
The report will be sent to the stakeholders here, and I'm saying the agencies, the government agencies first, to review before we put it outside to anybody else.
And what timeline can we expect that report to come to us?
We are saying that we should have, the report should be submitted to the various agencies, the fire services, police, customs, by mid to end of January, because it's nearly completed.
Thank you very much. We have reached a time close to 12 where we can begin to conclude. I will have the final say as chairman, but I will ask the representatives after this almost hour and a half period of hearing to offer brief closing remarks to the committee. And again, I would start from where I began with the Ministry of National Security, Fire Services, Police, EMA, and I will have Mr. Abraham be given the last word from the panel.
Thank you, Chair. The discussions this morning have been very useful to us at the Ministry of National Security. The recommendations put forward will be able to assist us in charting our way forward and how to treat with some of the issues that have been raised here today. And with respect to the recommendation made by the committee member about the collaboration at the Ministry, I undertake to go back and speak to my principals about what can be done. But that would be in relation to what the ministry is responsible for under the legislation. At this point in time, it's with respect to imports. When it comes to enforcement, those agencies need to have a discussion amongst themselves as to how they will be treating with that aspect.
Yes. Thank you very much. Fire Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is really a pleasure to be part of this because we are seeing fruit for concern that we have had for the longest while. And I was speaking earlier to the legal officer at the ministry, and she said that she is aware that there was a committee before on fireworks and related materials, but that has been maybe mudballed for a while. But this is a continuation of it, and we hope this time we will see legislation to allow us to enforce and to really have a safe environment. Having said that, on behalf of the Chief Fire Officer and all the members of the Fire Service, let me wish you and members of the JSC and all the stakeholders here a happy and a holy Christmas and a bright and a prosperous, productive 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. And a quiet one, too. Mr. Dulalchan.
We would really love it to be quiet, sir. So, but just to indicate, it's always refreshing coming here. Sergeant Ali, our acting inspector, who is head legal, is here. And I think it's important for us really to go back and see how we can probably, whatever existing law there is, how we can not only try to enforce, but probably try to make the general public aware. So there is, in fact, some novel ideas came from your good self, and it's something that we'll really seriously look at and embrace as we really try to see what we can do with this scourge that is really a menace to society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Police. EMA?
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for inviting us. I mean, this has been a rewarding morning for us. Thank you for your comments and your recommendations. We will take them on board. Again, I want to urge you, all members of Parliament and the general public, to look at the national environmental policy. This is the national environmental policy of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not the EMA's national environmental policy. The EMA is only facilitating the process. Today is the closing day for comments, so please, we urge you to go on our Facebook page or www.ema.co.tt and please send your comments. Again, we will continue to support all the agencies with respect to fireworks, and we look forward to something positive in 2018.
Thank you very much, EMA. And Mr. Abraham, Fire One Fireworks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to be here today to contribute to this important topic. Trinidad and Tobago is just 55 years old compared to the US and some other European countries that are 255 years old. We have laws that go back 100 years that need to be, in my opinion, repealed. That's your word? Repealed and rewritten and represented. And I definitely think the Explosives Act and the law governing fireworks in Trinidad and Tobago needs to be looked at. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already done in Europe and in the US. We just have to bring it, have a committee, discuss it, make our suggestions, and then put it into Parliament. And it's very similar to the speed limit of 80 kilometers. When that law was created, we had different type of cars and different type of roads. And it's the same with the fireworks industry. We have different type of fireworks as we do have different type of cars. And I think once we give people the right guidelines and tracks to run on, Trinidad and Tobagonians are very, they will comply and they will fall into line. And we of our own we've made our recommendations to use fireworks on specific days and specific times. And this is, as I said before, car business that turned into a fireworks business. But we don't just sell fireworks in our company. We sell positivity, and some of you all might see it as a menace, but for us, our job is really to make positivity louder, not quieter.
Thank you
and
very much.
Also, Mr. Chairman, we, as you know, fly the largest national flag in Macoya, and when you pass on your way to the airport, we force you to look up. The same with our products. We force people to look up.
Excellent advertising.
We know all year we're looking down, so this is not just us making money. We have a responsibility to Trinidad and Tobago.
Very good. And let me now summarize what I, and I'd imagine my colleagues in the committee who have worked very hard with me during the course of the year to defend the public interest have gleaned from this hearing. From Mr. Abraham, I got it very clear that there is a need for judicious use of the items that he sells, that there is a need for regulations. The regulations now certainly do not exist, and therefore people can buy the items and set them out whenever they wish to the unexpected public. And I think from what I gathered from Mr. Abraham, that he is amenable to an industry where individuals who purchase these items, say for All Year's Night, will be given between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. to have your celebration in a full hour and explore as much as you want. People are advised that this is the celebratory hour where they can look up and not down, and they can celebrate with Mr. Abraham. We understand. So I understand your position with respect to regulation. It is something we have to be looking at, because a good bit of the problem arises when these items are exploded to the unsuspecting public. They are taken unawares, they are taken by surprise, and the amount of lost pets who have been killed on the highways and so on, because people did not have the time to take evasive action, can in fact be minimized or even eliminated once we know that fireworks hour is 11:30 to 12:30 on All Year's Night. So the need for regulations are very important. We need to be looking at the regulations, and we look forward to whatever other advice you can give the committee so that we can regulate the use of this particular product, and the individuals who like to celebrate can celebrate in a controlled environment. The EMA has given us the assurance that they, as the technical agency, armed with the scientific officers, the research officers, will do some testing of decibel levels on an active night. I recommend All Year's Night. Also air quality, whether you can test the quality. If you can't test the quality, certainly you have the meters, the calibrating mechanisms for noise. You will be able to indicate to the Ministry of National Security, which granted that singular license, I'd imagine for a decent amount of fireworks, what the noise level was like, what the harm to the population could potentially be from this amount of fireworks in a concentrated environment, so that the Ministry of National Security will act with scientific information. Right now, we are not getting it clear whether the Ministry of National Security has made overtures to another arm of the state to make an informed decision. The police, now we know, will walk around with tape measures, and they do walk with tape measures for accidents, but I know that they should also walk with some scales, because you see, what the law says is that the police can, and the law given to me, a police officer may at any time, when such premises are open for business, that's the miscellaneous provisions of the Explosive Act. The police have wide powers, you know. Enter the premises of any wholesale or retail dealer and inspect all explosives in the stock of the dealer and the receptacles in which the same may be stored, and also inspect the books kept by any such dealer under this act and take a copy of any entries in such books. And then it says, any dealer who refuses to allow the inspection to be made or a copy to be taken, or obstructs any police officer when making the inspection or taking a copy, is liable to a fine of $1,000. So that the police can come with their blue lights, go and check out all those who are vending, take your scales, measure. The law does not say only about that black powder you talk about, you know, it says explosives. Once, in my mind, the police officer is of the view that something is an explosive, he can check. You see, I think it's important for the police to show a presence. The police, we see police when people are being killed, when there is accident and so on, but I think it is important for there to be a police presence so that the population out there will know that the police officers are keeping an eye on this activity and that there are laws which can be enforced. I also think that the canine unit of the police service can, in fact, be used to look at animal rights and animal welfare, and that they can, I'd imagine that any police officer who is in a canine unit would have a deep interest in animal welfare. And I think that's a nucleus to start from, so that that aspect of the Summary Offences Act can begin to be enforced. But the population must know that the police officers have the power to arrest people who are causing harm to animals. The fire services have done their inspections. The fire services have given us their recommendations for legislative changes, and we know that the Ministry of National Security will be looking at how, in fact, the agencies can be coordinated so that in an environment, you see, it's not as if the population is complaining unnecessarily. In an environment where more and more people are entering the 60-plus ranks, and more people are pet owners, we need in the Parliament to give due regard to their welfare and how we could control and mitigate their distress while others are celebrating. As I conclude, it's 12:06, I'm 6 minutes past the time I wanted to conclude, but as I conclude, I would like to thank all members of the panel who will work assiduously during the month of December, including Mr. Abraham, who will advise all his customers that they must use these items judiciously so that there can be a live and let live attitude, and they must be considerate of their neighbors and of their pets, of the neighbors' pets, so that there can be celebration throughout the land for all. There cannot be celebration for one and distress for others. I want to thank all members of the panel for being here. It was a very lively meeting, and that we know that there is much more to do, but this issue is not going to disappear. You could be sure that you will be invited periodically when the mayhem is not abating. You will not be invited when the problem has been solved, but it will be kept alive. It is an issue in the general population. I want to thank members of the committee who have worked with me, the chairman, during the course of the year to look at all social issues in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm deeply grateful to them for being here. I want to thank members of the Secretariat staff. You hardly see the Secretariat, but they are the ones who provide all the research material which enable us to undertake inquiries of a manner which will defend the public interest. The media, the Parliament staff, I would like to say thank you at this time, and I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Holy Christmas, Happy Holidays, and let us, on this occasion, as citizens, ensure that while we celebrate, we are considerate of the harm we may be doing to others, and we seek to control it at this time. So I want to adjourn this meeting. I thank you all for being here, and I thank our loyal listeners and viewers, and I also invite all members of the public who have been following us, if they have recommendations of their own, please send it to the Secretariat so we can continue the work of defending the public interest. I thank you and have a good afternoon.